When I realized I was a woman, I realized that it was up to me.
When I realized I had to leave my church was when they wouldn't marry me and my wife or let me be on the board of directors.
I realized that I felt more aligned with... I'm still actually struggling with finding an exact label, and maybe I never...
This winter, I realized I was 55 when I completely came out.
Thinking about like a moment of realization for me, one stands out in particular as probably the most significant, both in my identity as a queer person, gay identifying man, and also as a Christian.
I realized that I needed to more seriously contemplate my position as an elder in the Church of the Nazarene, an ordained minister in the Church of the Nazarene, when I received the news of a mandate that came down from the 6 top general superintendent leaders of the denomination.
When I realized I was non-binary, it kind of felt like I was doing a puzzle, but there were like 3 pieces missing.
I'm 63 years old. My indoctrination into religion began in the Methodist Church and then the Church of God in the first 18 years of my life. As I struggled with being gay and being told there's no place for me within religious constructs, I realized I was agnostic.
I checked under the couch, I checked under the table, under the desk, under the car.
When I realized I was a woman, I realized that it was up to me. It was up to me to make a decision on how I wanted to manifest that and how I wanted to continue on in the world.
I came out slowly to like people who were close to me, but I shared something on my social media.
I made the decision to fully become a woman.
But I was out on a walk on a night, I think during the shutdown during pandemic. I was finishing a master's in psychology. I was just feeling pretty overwhelmed by lots of things, and I had really set aside a lot of time during shutdown to really just kind of dive into what at the time I was calling struggling with the same-sex attraction that I now just know is being gay.
But then all of a sudden those 3 pieces just materialized.
Made the decision to fully become a woman and express myself as one, knowing that the world wasn't so kind to people like me.
And of course, word got around to the people at the church we were at and serving at, and they asked me to step down from the worship team. And
knowing that a lot of people wouldn't understand it.
But I had at that point been in therapy for 6 years, and I'd worked through various different kind of significant themes in my life and relationships, different abuses I had experienced and whatnot, and it had kind of had this notion for years that once I had healed from X, Y, and Z in therapy, that it would kind of course correct my sexuality, that maybe my same-sex attraction was a byproduct of trauma or abuse that I experienced in my life. And
when I was arguing with a pastor who had kicked me off the worship team for coming out as bi, and listening to him talk about things, how black and white they are, and this is right and this is wrong, I actually had more of a realization that I really never felt aligned with those kind of things. So I guess I have that pastor who kicked me off the worship team to thank for kind of being more aware of my own identity, gender identity in particular, of just always feeling a little bit more comfortable in those gray areas.
There was one moment where I just kind of stopped outside like a fire pit that was on the beach, and I just asked myself, like, are you gay? Like, is that what's going on? Is that the kind of the common thread that is maybe going through all of this? And I immediately felt my anxiety just plummet. And I think up until that point, when I'd stop and ask myself that question, on a scale of 1 to 10, my anxiety was probably always at a 6 or 7, and I felt it just immediately drop to like a 2.
I do not need a church or a preacher to tell me right from wrong. I was born the way I'm supposed to be. There's nothing to fix. I'm a wonderful person that has broken free from the confines of religion.
But I did it because it was the first time that I felt completely whole. And it was the first time I felt like I was making a good decision for myself and my life.
And what was cool is I could throw those puzzle pieces away, and it kind of feels like I've started a new puzzle with new pieces.
I relied on a lot of people to have faith and to see me in my image. And I think that's some of the most beautiful things that a person could experience. Allowing people to see them for who they are. And trusting that people who truly know you and understand you and see you, you can trust.
For 5 years, I drove a tractor trailer all over this country. Somewhere along the way, I realized the search for masculinity was not very important. I found it's much more important to accept who you are and to be happy with the life you make for yourself.
That these district leaders were supposed to impress upon us local church pastors, and that's what I was at the time. I was working at a local church here in San Diego. This mandate was that they were to impress upon us strongly that we needed to be extra cautious about who we were allowing into membership, much less other levels of involvement that were like more connective.
Until it's actually done. It's never done. I don't know. But I love thinking about forming a new puzzle, and it'll be whatever the hell I want it to be.
I am in a better place, and although at times it becomes harder, I am always sure of my decision. And I'm really happy of everything that's come with it. A community, a brain that makes sense, a body that makes sense.
And the puzzle was complete, and then the puzzle completely just was beautiful. And then it was smashed at the same time, because the puzzle I thought I was putting together was not the puzzle that actually made sense for how I felt on the inside.
My parishioners, my congregants who were just at the level of wanting to say, hey, this is a church that I agree with and I want to be a part of, that I was supposed to block them from joining the church in an era when people are not eager to join churches. And I'm supposed to find out if they've had sex before, like intercourse before. I'm supposed to assess whether or not they're acting gay rather than just being gay. And punish them, really, for having had an affair. This obviously was so misaligned with my values and my deep beliefs about what it means to belong to a loving community that it really set me back.
It was miraculous and terrifying, because it immediately called into question, well, what does that mean then for X, Y, and Z in my life, as far as my family and my religious and faith background and upbringing,
and the overall image, like the end goal, finishing the puzzle almost doesn't even matter. It more is just fun putting together a surreal, bizarre, twisted, unique, gorgeous new puzzle, a new image that is completely, I don't know what it's going to be. And when I figured out that I was non-binary, I got to explore a new puzzle, and I don't think I'll ever finish it, but it'll be so much fun and so cute and so colorful.
I realized that I needed to more seriously contemplate.
That was an extremely significant moment of realization for me.
When I realized I had to leave my church was when they wouldn't
I
marry me.
realized that
Within religious
felt more
constructs,
aligned with-
I realized I was agnostic.
When I realized I was non-binary, it kind of
When I realized I was a woman, I realized that it was up to me.